It never ceases to amaze me, the Lord's hand in my life, because I've had so much going on for so long and been praying for certain things to happen. And the timing of different things that happen, it's like totally makes sense when it does, right? So, for instance, my house has been on the market since the end of June last year. And this has been quite a stressful time for our family because, I've had 5 kids that have, moved on with a lot of things, although my oldest is living here with his family while, um, to help me out until the house sold. At least that was the thing. And it was supposed to be a temporary situation that turned into a little bit more of a long-term thing. And it's been amazing to me, though, the timing. My house is now under contract as of today officially, but just there's been a lot of things to kind of come to an end that would be happening for April and for our family and where we are positioned in our family and where they are and where I am and whatever. And so it's really quite amazing to me, the Lord's hand in our life. And I think about that in different situations. I've had a lot of conversations with people regarding being single in the church. And as many of you know, I've shared with you before, I was divorced my divorce was final in June of 2008. So I've been single. I've been a single parent for a long time, and I've raised my 5 kids, and now they're all grown and whatever. And I was having this conversation with a friend of mine. I think it was last week, maybe, and she said, it's really something how it's like the Lord. As much as I wanted to remarry, and as much as I went to different single adult events, and and it was preparing myself for different things and really working on who I was as a person. I'm like a personal development junkie. Okay, I love self-improvement stuff, like self-improvement books or whatever. So I just thrive on that. That's like, oh my goodness, I love it. I do not enjoy reading per se otherwise, but give me a self-improvement something and I'm on it. So, but anyway, but she was saying, isn't it something how the Lord knew, and I think it was just within the last day or two we had this conversation, isn't it something how the Lord knew that even though it was my righteous desire to be in a relationship and to be married and to be a wife and be a mom and all that jazz, like, we all want that, or a lot of us anyway want that, that ideal, right, of being a husband or a wife and having the family and having the kids and having that day in and day out kind of stuff, right? But she said, and it really hit home to me, she said, Paula, you didn't need to bring a man in. You didn't need to bring a man into your home while you still had kids at home. Your kids needed you and needed that time to heal and that time for you guys to grow together and for you to raise them and get them on their own. Now, while I was going through that, I didn't want that. My big thing was parenting was meant for 2. Raising teenagers, 5 of them by myself, that was like, some payback for my teenage years, I'm telling you. It was just a challenge. And now I love my kids. They're just awesome people. I love so much about them. And we did grow together and we did learn a lot of stuff together. And we went through a lot of really super tough times and we went through some really super great times. But I love how she said, it's like you're ready now, because she's noticed that since my kids are older, and we've been friends for a few years, but since my kids are older and they've all kind of moved out, move on, I'm more relaxed. I'm a little bit different. I'm more, I don't know, but she knew me back when I was stressing over, my kids and the teenagers at home and whatever. And now she knows me now. And it's a little like weight off my shoulders kind of thing, So, I will just never never cease to amaze me the timing of the Lord. Now, I'm not saying I'm in a relationship. I'm not. But I just feel like I'm at a point where it's just different, and it feels different for me in my life to be able to embrace like the webinars, or to embrace um, different events or different relationships or whatever in a different way. So it's just humbling to know that. It's also humbling to know, for me, the difference that one person can make in your life. The influence that they have, and the power they have. And again, we can do this. We can think about this with anybody in our life, whether it be a friend, a child, a parent, member of the ward, or whatever. One person can say something, and years later we remember it, whether it be something awesome and inspiring and heartfelt, and we're always going to remember that, and it's going to just be a fabulous thing for us to remember, or if it's something that was negative and it hurt us and it was like a knife in the heart. And then there are times when we also get to be that influence, when we get to be that one person to make a difference. So I'm going to tell you an example of my youngest son, who's now serving a mission in Brazil. His name is Chris. He was born the day after Christmas, and I knew that Christmas was going to be somewhere in his name. But he had to overcome a lot of anger and a lot of hurt and a lot of whatever because of things that happened with his father. And he grew up to be quite an amazing young man. He's 19, and he knows more about the scriptures than anybody I personally know. I could go to him with anything, any scripture, any whatever, and he would be able to give me insight, tell me the story, tell me the whatever, anything. So while he was in high school, and he's always been kind of an older soul, like more mature for his age and whatever, and probably because he's raised by me and having certain expectations and certain things, and I was the only parent, and so I set rules and guidelines and boundaries and whatever, but they were healthy, and they weren't like ultra controlling or ultra authoritative or whatever, but they knew their limits, right? Well, he surpassed what I expected of my children. So reading scriptures daily, I was okay if they read a verse. I was okay if they just showed up to family scripture reading at night and they were in the same room. I didn't even care if they were holding the book half the time. It was just, they're hearing it. They're gleaning something from it. I was praying, right? So it was just, I just felt like I did a lot of that flying by the seat of my pants, quite honestly. Well, not only my expectations, but also through the influence of other leaders in the church that he grew to love the scriptures and the stories and the insights that he gained from it, and it helped him become who he is. So he was in choir. He's not a sports person. He tried, but it just wasn't in his nature to do that, which is awesome. It was totally okay, and I love music, so we're a musical family, so that totally works for me. But he joined the choir, and they would sing a lot more religious songs. We're in a small town, very religious community, and nobody would say anything about her, the choir director having the choir sing something about David and Goliath or Solomon, whatever. And so whenever they would do this, she would want to explain to them the choir, like the class. They have like 80 to 100 students in this choir, like huge classes. And she would want somebody to explain what was going on with the story, like explain why we're singing about Solomon or whatever, because a lot of the kids that were in this weren't necessarily churchgoers and, didn't really understand or didn't really know the Bible stories or whatever. So when she first did that, she just asked, hey, is there someone that knows the story of whatever, Solomon or David or whatever? And Chris said he would look around the room and nobody would answer or nobody would raise their hand. So he'd raise his hand and he gives an in-depth. This boy talks more than any boy I know. Quite honestly, he talks more than my daughter does. I mean, he's a very verbal person. Like, he will give detail, he will give insight and everything. So he spent 5 to 10 minutes explaining this story or more about the song. Okay. Well, from then on out, and I think that was his sophomore year, possibly his freshman year, but I think it was at least his sophomore year. And from then on out, the teacher would just call on him to tell everybody whatever story about whatever song that they were singing about. And so then kids would go to him with questions about religion. And he was one that was very accepting of whatever people believed. He wasn't one that said, oh, you've got to do it this way or you're wrong, right? So like he was just very accepting. He would just share his testimony and he would just share his experiences and went in his insight. And if they had something different, he was like, that's kind of interesting, right? Like he didn't want to argue with them. Well, during his sophomore year, he loves music. I mean, it is in his soul, right? So they were doing a musical and he really wanted to do that musical. But traditionally, in our town of Winder, they would do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday performance. And it was required that if you had a part in that musical, that you had to be present at each one of those. Well, in our home, Sunday is a very special day. And we don't participate in outside things like that, okay? Or we don't normally, do anyway. So Sunday was a special day, and to him it was even more special, like than even I made it to be. During the semester before the musical, and he had already decided he wasn't going to do the musical because he would have to do it on Sunday, but his teacher announced that the final performance for their choir, just the choir performance, was going to be on a Sunday and a Sunday night. And most of the Christmas songs that they were going to be doing were not religious. It was a lot about Santa and Rudolph and, more of the fun songs. And so he went to his teacher and he told her, didn't even talk to me about it. He just went to her and told her, at least I don't remember him talking to me about it, that he could not participate in that chorus performance on that Sunday. And she said, you realize that's a final grade. You would take a 0. He goes, I know. And he did come home and he told me about this. He was very adamant, it wasn't like he went to her in anger or whatever. He was very kind about it and he understood and he was willing to take that 0. And he realized that would affect his grade. And his GPA mattered. He was a 4.0 student, okay? He actually graduated 6th in his class. So GPA mattered to him, being an academic kind of person. But he was willing to do that. And so she called me up 2 days, I think, after, or something like that. But it was within a couple of days or something. She had called me. It's like on a Wednesday night. He was at church at Scouts or something, and she said, I just want to talk to you a little bit about Chris. And I thought, oh no, now I've got to explain and whatever. And she's like, no, I wish more kids were like Chris. I wish more were able to stand up for what they believed in. And be willing to stand up, for themselves or for whatever. And she said, so here's what I've decided to do. I don't want him to have to take a 0 because of what he believes in or because of his religious beliefs. So so instead, I'm going to have him perform with the freshmen on a Thursday night, and So they were going to work all that out so that he wouldn't have to do that. And so he was happy about that. Then he went and started practicing with the freshmen, which, it wasn't totally bad because he was a sophomore, right? And then he, I guess a couple of weeks later, maybe a month later, because this was earlier in the school year when she had determined the schedule, like probably September, early October, something like that. But within a month or so after that, out of the blue, he said, she announced to the class that there was going to be a vote about the Sunday performance, because I think it just kept going through her head, right? That this kid would be willing to do this for what he believed in. And so she said, hey, who in here would like to keep the course performance on Sunday, or who would like to change it to Monday night, the next night? And so then they had a vote, and the majority vote was for Monday night. So they got to change that that course performance, and he didn't have to do the thing with the freshmen, but I think he still did anyway because they was already practicing with them or whatever. So that was fine, and so then he was then able to do the Monday night performance and then not have to take a 0, or it wasn't going to take a 0 anyway, but he still got to perform with his friends. So fast forward a little bit to that musical he was wanting to do. And it was within a month after that, or around, maybe it was even around the same time of that whole announcement of the whole changing of the Sunday thing. The musical they were doing was Grease, and there was a lot of boy parts, right? So they needed the boys to be participating. And so she asked again in front of these 100 students, went around to all the boys. First, she said, I want to see a show of hands who's going to be auditioning for the musical. So some of the boys raised their hand. Chris did not. And so she went around to the boys that did not have their hands raised to ask why. Not in a confrontational kind of way, just wanted to know what their reasoning was for it, and see if there was anything she could help them with. And she's just a wonderful, wonderful woman. She became like a second mom to Chris. So, she was just an awesome, awesome woman. Anyway, so she went around and she pointed to Chris. And she already knew his reason. And she said, we changed it so that it would no longer be on a Sunday. Instead, now the performances will be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Now, mind you, historically, like years, and she's been working with the school for about 20 years, it's always been Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. He was even told as a freshman, you can't audition as a freshman. And when you do audition, you have to perform on a Sunday. They're not going to change that just for you. They're going to make you do that if you do it. So he's like, well, then fine, I just want to do a musical, as much as he would love it, right? So she's telling him, this one boy, now he is gifted with music. He is quite awesome. But anyway, this one boy, 14, 15 maybe by then, we changed it so that you could audition. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday. He has since graduated high school, and some of the other kids from the ward have joined chorus and are now participating in the musicals. And they continue to have those performances on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So I share that with you because throughout his high school years, he gained a reputation as being the most religious student in his senior class. I don't know about the school, but I know that among his peers, he was the one they looked to whenever, I remember this one girl came back from spring break. We do spring break here around Easter. And after spring break, she came up to him. She said, I don't go to church, but I'm hearing a lot of talk about this Easter thing and what it means and something about an atonement. And I thought that of all the people I could ask you, and you would tell me what that means. And so he did. And he was able to share his testimony with that over and over and over and over again. And I find that very interesting to me, because some of his friends were atheists, some of his friends were Southern Baptist, or some of them didn't even go to church and weren't really non-religious. It's just not what they did. But he had people that would support him in his religious beliefs, and because of him, he would, like they would stop cussing when he came around, or they would act differently, or they knew that if they were around him, they would have to hold to a different standard around him. I think about that when I think about us as a single adult. Sorry, I'm missing all the chat. If anybody's on here wanting to keep up with the chat for me, that'd be awesome. If I'm missing anything, let me know. Just unmute yourself and tell me. But I think about that when I think about all the people that we influence. Now, I do have 4 sons and a daughter, and they're all awesome in different ways. But this son's influence on his peers and his teacher was just amazing. And it was because of him that she was able to, she even told me, she goes, now whenever the missionaries come by, I don't sick my dogs on them. I actually talk to them. Things like that, right? Because they knew he was going to be a missionary. He's like, oh man, this could be Chris coming to our door. We can't do this. So anyway, so I think about that though with single adults, and I think about the power of one, the power of influence, and who we are, and what we do. And for some reason, and again, I'm just in awe that the Lord has put us here. I don't know that the Lord's really put us here as being single, but for whatever reason, we are still single together, however we got here. But we all know each other. We're somehow associated with each other, right? Like we're in each other's lives, I believe, for a reason. And I believe that we each have an influence for one way or another, good or bad. We choose which influence we're going to be on somebody within the single adults. So we have that kind of power. We have that kind of influence. And we choose the attitude, we choose the words, we choose the whatever. And I'm not saying we're all going to be perfect. Lord knows I'm not perfect, and I know I've offended people, and to all of you, I'm sorry. But I just do know that in my heart of hearts, everybody knows I have a testimony of the single adult program. I think it was inspired. I think it's something that we all need while we're single, while we develop this community of friendship and fellowship together, and we encourage and we uplift and we just inspire each other, and we help each other along in our journey for however long that we are in this journey together. So last week, I'll come back to that in a minute. So last week, a friend of mine passed away. A friend of ours passed away. And I don't know how many people were super close to him. He was in his late 40s. And he passed away of a pretty tough disease. And I wonder if my influence for him could have been different. I could have been better. What could I have done more? Another member of our committee and I were planning to go visit him on Wednesday night. I had gotten an email from a friend of his about, that he was in the hospital and they weren't expecting him to make it through the week. And I think I got that on either Monday or Tuesday. I can't remember exactly when. And I put that out to the committee if anybody wants to go visit him, And so we had set up to go visit Wednesday night. And then I got a message Wednesday morning that he had passed away that morning. So that changed our plans, you know. And so this has been heavy on my mind. The power of one person, the power of influence that we have in someone's life. Now, we have power of influence over our exes. We have power of influence with our children. We have power of influence with our parents, with our siblings, with our other family members, right? We have power of influence for our ward members. But in reference to this, I want to talk about how we have the power of influence among our peers as single adults. And for those of you just joining us for the first time this year, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I see some wonderful, fabulous friends on here. I'm so grateful that you're here. The way that this works, we're pretty informal. I do try to start off with a thought. I'm usually not this long-winded, but I've had this kind of heavy on my mind. So I thought I would share it with you today because I feel like I need to. And you're welcome to chat in the chat box. If you want to come up, and some of you can see some of the pictures up there, and some of you are in attendee mode. If you want to become a panelist, just shoot me a chat or a message of some kind here on the chat box with the Q&A, and just let me know that you're okay with being a panelist, and then I'll just bring you in. I just don't like doing that without someone's permission, because some people don't like to do that, or maybe your audio doesn't work or something like that. So just let me know. I can't help you with any audio issues, but I would love to welcome you to, as a panelist if you want to do that. So I want to open that up right now for discussion. I know I've kind of laid a few heavier things on us tonight, but I want to open up the discussion about the power and influence that we have among each other as single adults. The power of one.
Paula?
Uh-huh.
I fixed my audio problem.
Awesome.
I'm not quite sure how I did it, but I did it.
I'm just glad you did.
I am finding with this mega conference that I'm having a power of one that I didn't even know I had.
Isn't that awesome?
When I put out the flyer that you sent me, I put a note down on the bottom, and I think maybe I wrote it wrong. I said, contact Wynn about carpooling and lodging.
Oh.
Because I was hoping to help other people do that. Yeah. I did not realize that when I rented a house thinking that only 2 of us would be in it, that the word would get around, and now I've got, I'm up to maybe 6 people instead of just 2.
That's awesome,
and I'm feeling a little overwhelmed because I'm not usually a person who travels in groups.
Right.
I usually come by myself. And now I'm being faced with a situation I've never dealt with before. How to be in a group and sharing a house with that many people that I'm not really close with. Stretching my boundaries as a single person.
You will have the opportunity to make some really good friends. Isn't that awesome?
It's even spread out to a second place. I mean, where the group from my house is going to be also spreading to another house because there's not enough room in my house.
Awesome. So you've had a great power of influence there, right?
Yeah. And I have had I've been working for 8 years trying to get an official single adult group here in the area again. And I spoke with the stake president last week, and he is setting up a meeting where he wants me to bring other singles to meet with him about their feelings and mine for a single adult group in our area again.
Oh man, that is great news. That is
And
fabulous.
see if we can't work on getting some more singles active again.
That is fabulous. Oh, I'm loving it.
It's in the works, but it's still a couple months away.
Progress is progress. So if you guys, if anybody that doesn't know, the mega conference she's referring to is here in the Southeast. This is one that we've been planning for about a year or more. It's going to be in Charleston at the end of April. And, if you guys need information, let me know. So that's awesome. Thank you for your thoughts, Wynn. Anybody else have any thoughts you'd like to share on the power of one and the power of our influence? I know you guys have some thoughts on that. I can wait. But yeah. So one person reaching out, making that personal connection. We're in a digital age where it's really kind of challenging. That's why I like doing the webinars. Not that we're not using digital, but because I'm wanting to expand this out to more of America. Not everybody can travel to my home or to our church building or whatever to try to do this. And I just feel like we are, and also it's a little bit less inhibited, if you will, if you're doing it from your home. And if you're muted, and if you can talk when you want to talk, kind of thing. And so you're not necessarily put on the spot. So if you guys are okay with it, some of you attendees, I think I'm going to bring in. If you guys don't want to be, let me know. But otherwise, some of you are friends of mine. So if you're my friend, you're going to get brought in a little bit. So I can hear from you a little bit more.
So Paula, one of the things that I wanted to bring up, I think that when I first started getting active in the singles group, there were a lot of people around me that were hesitant about. And I think that by me going and making the effort, I kind of dragged them along for a while. And now I have quite the group that, we travel together on a regular basis, and, we're able to not only forge, friendships. I feel like I truly have friends down south now that I look forward to the weekends that I can come down south, and people open their homes to me, and it's a beautiful thing. I look forward to those weekends where I can come be with my people, is what I call them, my people. And because there's not a lot of activity up here as far as people wanting to get together and be, one. And I'm really at a point in my life, I have no children at home anymore, and I want that. I want nothing more than to have a bunch of friends that have thoughts and beliefs, and male, female, I don't care. I'll take whatever, I'm just like, I'm hungry for it. I don't care what it is. I need it. I want it, and I need it in my life. So.
Right. Oh yeah. I love that. Yeah. And isn't it something how, we do, and I think the more we reach out and the more we put into something, the more we get out of it. And I love how you bring in your group of friends, and you have your connections with people. I just think that's just amazing. That's just so wonderful that you do that. And it does take time. It does take time to kind of adjust to, new way of whatever. And if we do have kids at home, it is different. It is, and I always say that, family's first. So whenever somebody says, oh, I can't come to that conference because that's the weekend I've got my kids, or I'm like, oh, that's awesome. You spend time with your kids. You take care of whatever. Somebody says, oh, Paul, I can't. You can't come to your webinar on Sunday night because that's the time I do home evening with my kids. You do that with your kids, you know? Way more important, because your kids you're only going to have for a little bit of time. So please do that. Yeah, because this isn't to take precedent over your children or family or whatever, but this is something though that can still bond us and help us as individuals. I know when I was newly single and would start going to single adult events, and I would come back, the day after or whatever, and go to church with my kids or whatever. Like if I went to a dance Saturday night or went to an activity on Saturday or whatever, and I'd be back with my kids the next day. I remember one time, this was early on, probably within the first year, because I was still in Charlotte back when I lived there. And I remember one of my kids was saying, "So, Mom, when are you going back to your next single adult thing?" And I jokingly just said, "Why, are you trying to get rid of me?" Thinking they liked the time, didn't have Mom telling them what to do or when to go, whatever. They said, "No, you come back happier." And I like that. And I think because of what we had been going through that year, and that was early on, there was a lot of stress I was dealing with and a lot of stuff on my shoulders that I wasn't prepared for and didn't know what to do with and whatever. And I think that when I came back, it was just a little lighter. Not that anything changed. I still had the same responsibilities, still had the same weight, still had the same whatever. But I was able to go be me for a little bit. I didn't have to worry about being Mom. Didn't have to worry about what bill was being paid. I didn't have to worry about whatever, right? I could just let it go for just a little bit and then come back to it. And I found that was very healthy. And if I did not have my single adult friends through these last 10 plus years, almost 11, that I wouldn't have the bonds of friendship that I have now. Because as great as my wards have been that I've been in, and I've been in some fabulous wards, I haven't had any really super close friends in any of them that were married. And I mean, I had friends, don't get me wrong. They would talk to me on Sunday. I'd have my visiting teachers come, depending on which ward or state I lived in at the time. There was some that were better than others. Like I had all that, but it just wasn't the same. And I think it's not the same because I feel more comfortable in sharing what I've been through with somebody that's also been through something as a single adult. And as somebody who would get it. I have this one friend that has been through something similar to what I've been through. And, some variations to it, but the most similar I've found in any other friend. And she's the one I feel like I can go to and talk to, and we don't even live in the same state. But she's one I can call and I can talk to about whatever that's going on with the situation or, the family life or whatever. And she gets it. Like she gets the ins and outs, the ups and downs, the whatever. Other people can imagine, but she gets it because she's also living it. And I am a few years past her. She still has kids at home and mine have grown up and moved out. So if ever she's going through something, I'm able to go, I wish I had done this when my kids were this age. And then that can help her if she wants to use it or not. I would, if I could have gone back and changed this, here's what I would have done different. So I think that through that power and influence, we can help each other as well. And I know another tangent, sorry, I'm a tangent person. But we are all
I'm sorry, I thought you were finished with that thought.
Yeah, I was. Go ahead.
Okay. Today in Relief Society, the question was asked, have you ever made an intentional choice to follow Christ, to stay in the church, to remain active? And my response to that was, when my husband announced he wanted to leave 10 years ago and did so, I made the intentional choice that I was going to remain active. And the only way I was able to remain active was to go to single adult events in Virginia, in Georgia, in South Carolina, in Charlotte, Raleigh, Winston-Salem, that if I had not made that intentional choice to go to those events, even though it cost me, money and time and wear and tear on me to do those things, I wouldn't still be active in the church, because it was going to those events and hearing the talks and talking to the people that helped keep me active in the church.
Yep. Anybody else feel the same way? Has anyone else been through something similar? How would you have answered that question?
I just had a thought come to mind as far as like power of one person.
Mm-hmm.
So I 2 years ago at the Springapalooza activity, I met somebody and we went on a date, and didn't really hit it off or anything, but we remained friends. And then the next month for the dance, I just got the impression, hey, invite her to go, because she has some vision problems and can't drive at night.
Mm-hmm.
So, invite her to go and, give her a ride. And so we got to, I think it was Chewy's was that time. And there was a bunch of people at a big long table, and there were 2 seats open, one at either end of the table. So, we couldn't sit near each other. She sat down, and the guy she sat down next to, they ended up getting married 2 months later.
Was that Jennifer?
Yes.
That's
Jennifer
awesome.
and George. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, because I followed that prompting to ask her if she needed a ride, she got married. So
isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
And they still seem just so happily married. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because they got married a few years ago, didn't they? Yeah.
Yep.
That's great. Yeah, because I remember she didn't come out a lot. So yeah. Oh, that's great. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing how sometimes we do have a prompting? And I know I'm trying to be better about this, but there's a lot of times when I'll talk myself out of a prompting. And I have to get better at that, because or at least write them down or something, so that we follow up on those, because there's a reason that we have those. I know we do have huge influence on so many people, and we have quite a journey ahead of us. Whether we're single, whether we get married, whatever happens, in the Lord's timing, we have a power of influence. Now, whenever we approach, say, a single adult event, I've had different people say that they attend for various reasons. There will be people attending, I don't know no, I do not. Everyone's intention for attending an event is not always the same. Okay? Let's just say that. But everyone's intention needs to be, and you'll get so much more out of it if you would approach it this way, needs to be to develop a community of friends. And if you approach it with, I'm going to develop a community of friends, and just have that friendship, and be able to come together to do that, you're going to find so many more blessings in your life. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be single forever. It also doesn't mean that you have to go to this and only make friends, right? Like, there's so many different ways of approaching an event. Some people do say, well, I'm going to go to find somebody. Then what I ask of you, if that is your intention, is don't expect it to happen in one night. Now, Jennifer and George, they got married. I love Brian's story. I love the fact that he shared that one. They didn't go to that dance that night and just hook up and then whatever, right? Like they started a relationship from there. And that was what led into them feeling inspired to be married. And I have found that, and George had been at other events. That wasn't his first time, but he kept coming. And a lot of people want to give up, or they get frustrated because it doesn't happen in their timing, because it's not happening now. I've had people quit coming because they haven't found anybody, or because it's the same people all the time. And to me, I've been in Atlanta since 2012. I'm always meeting new people. Every month, there's new people. And it comes and goes. And I've seen this group in Atlanta change, like drastically change. We went through a year, I think it might have been the year that Jennifer and George got married. We had like a dozen couples getting married that year. It was like crazy. Well, not okay. I mean, it was wonderful, but I mean, it was just like, wow. And it was a lot of our regulars that were getting married, and the regulars, I call the ones that we see every month. But yeah, it was just kind of awesome, the blessings that was coming about on that. So what I've found is that if you're consistent and you don't give up and you keep a good attitude, because your mindset about it is going to attract more than anything. And we're going to talk about that here in just a minute too. But when you approach it in a way that shows commitment and shows loyalty and shows consistency, you show the Lord what you are willing to do to find somebody, if that's your intention, to to date or to marry or whatever your intention is, or maybe a big group of friends. I will tell you, for me, early on, I loved the idea of dating, and I did date occasionally, but looking back now, I needed that group of friends. I needed that group of friends because what I was going through in my day-to-day life was bigger than I could handle. And just being able to go, not that they could fix a thing in my life, but they could offer friendship. And I needed that. I still need that. I value my friendships. Oh, wonderful. I actually had a friend, one of those regulars that got married a few years ago. I was talking to her. I went to go see her one time, or maybe I met her at the temple. I don't remember. But anyway, I saw her. And she said, Paula, I love being married. There's so many good things about being married. And the man I married is just a great man. He's just an awesome man. He said, but there's a lot of things I miss about being a single adult. She said, I feel like I gave up all my friends for one man. Right? And so she was still kind of reeling from that and kind of dealing that. Now, I don't think that people have to necessarily give up friendships because they get married. But there's a different dynamic. There is that difference of personalities, there's that difference of lifestyles, of whatever you embrace, right? But I don't plan to give up my friends when I get married because my friends are my friends, right? I'm not going to be attending the dances and all that all the time, but I might crash them occasionally. but overall, it's not like I'm going to be, you know what I mean? I hope you know what I mean. Hope I'm making sense. I feel like I'm talking to myself sometimes. I need somebody else talking to me so that we can have a conversation. And so,
a while ago.
What was that?
I said I raised my hand a little while ago.
Oh, yeah, you don't need to raise your hand here. If you're up here, you just unmute yourself and talk.
Start talking, right?
Yeah. What you got, Don?
Talk loud, you override everybody else. So, well, I was going to comment when you were saying that the group changed and some of them got, what, 8 of them, a whole slew of them got married. Well, we had a pretty active family home evening group, for single adults in the early part of the century in Charlotte. And there were about 10 or 11 of us that would always, come. And then within about 30 days, 8 of them got married to each other.
Oh, wow.
So that was the end of that group.
Yeah. Well, and quite honestly, a lot of people say, well, that's a successful program if people are getting married, and I don't agree with that. I'm loving that people get married, don't get me wrong. I think it's awesome. I love attending weddings and receptions, and I love that they found somebody to be with for eternity, and that they're doing that. I love that, okay? But I don't think that determines the success of our program. What determines the success of our program is people participating in it, people showing up. What determines the success of our program, to me, are the friendships that we develop, are the lives that we touch and that we influence, and the people that we're able to make a difference with. There's a mindset to that. There's a way of thinking and things that we say to ourselves, and I've talked about this before, but there's a mindset about the single adult program. Some is, there's a lot of myths out there about it. There's a lot of inhibitions about it. There's a lot of anxiety over it for some people. And I get that. You're going to be doing something new, and, it's like approaching the youth program all over again, but at an older age for some people. And being able to approach it in a way where you feel like you've got a group of friends to go to is so much easier to go into. When I have new committee members come in, that's one of the big things that I try to get across to them is that, and then occasionally we'll do training on this as well, and I'll teach them. We need to embrace these people as our friends, and we go in and I like to train people on what I call table hopping. So let's say we're at a dance, and as the committee, we're going to go around and we're going to visit different tables, and we're going to talk to people or introduce ourselves or welcome them, or find out more about the different people, so that then they know more people and they're more familiar with them, and they've also enlarged their group of friends and who they know and different stories, and that helps a lot for us to be unified as a committee, to be able to do that as a goal, but also be able to have the people that are there know that we care about them. And that for me is a priority. So when I go back to the success of a program, people showing up, people participating. When I have 2,000 single adults in the Atlanta area, or I don't have this, when we have in the Atlanta area 2,000 active single adults that are going to church, because we have about 10,000 that are on record, but I know of about 2,000 that are active. I'm smelling something burning in my house. Maybe I'd have to say something to somebody. Anyway, then and then I have maybe 100 people, or we have 100 people showing up for our events. If that, then we don't have a successful program, as far as I'm concerned. But we do for the Southeast. Atlanta has a very strong single adult program, right? Like we're doing things a couple of times a month, if not more, with the various stakes doing other things, because we have a 12-stake combined area that we're all working together. So we have events, but the people that come and partake of those are the ones that we need to reach out to, and I feel like we miss people all the time.
Are there single adult wards in Atlanta?
Or no, there's no single adult wards anywhere. They have mid-single adult wards out west, but there's no single adult wards.
There's none out west?
Not that I know of. No, it's not even in the handbook to have a single adult ward. It's just a mid-single adult ward where they feel like it's necessary. They'll have one for there, but no, there's no single adult ward. And we don't need a single adult ward. We have, if there was a single adult ward, would be sitting through the same 2 meetings we sit through in a family ward. Wouldn't really be able to interact with people, whatever. It's these activities and events, the home evening groups, the come follow me groups that people are getting together, which I think are awesome and fabulous, that people come together with, and that's where you bond more. So yeah, I mean, there's no need for the church to create a single adult ward.
That's your opinion.
It's also the leader's opinion.
Well, now we've had people come to dances in Charlotte and say that they have single adult wards in Washington.
They have YSA and they have mid-single adult wards, and sometimes they call them they call the mid-single adult single adult wards. They're 31 to 45. Okay, I'm not going to have a conversation though about single adult wards. That's not the purpose of this. I can't do anything about single adult wards. That's up to the leadership of the church. Okay, so I don't want to have a conversation about that. I think I've told you that before as well. So yeah. So for now though, what I want to talk to you about though is just being able to reach out to people. If I had challenged you to take your yellow pad or whatever piece of paper you may have beside you with a pen or whatever, and you think of people that you could reach out to, that you feel like aren't getting the full benefit of the program, or maybe need more fellowship or friendship. Could you think of some people? Could you think of maybe 1 or 2, maybe 5, maybe 10? Each ward averages about 100 people. Each stake averages about 1,000 single adults. That to me is mind-boggling when I think about that, when I think about the power and influence that we could have on people. And I don't care if they show up at a dance. If they don't want to come to a dance, don't come to a dance. But there's other things. There's the home evening groups, or come follow me groups, or the or fireside, or potluck, or dinner group, or an activity of some kind, or whatever. You know, there's so many other options. Or you can just take them to lunch and meet them for dinner. I've done that too. It's either way, it's just reaching out. It's kind of like a ministry thing, but among the single adults. So while we're on this journey together, I want you to think about that and think about your power and your influence on other people and what you can do to make a difference in their life. What you could do to be a better friend. What you could do to support the single adult program in your area. Can you think of people that may come together to join you in studying the Come Follow Me manual? I love that Linda in Greenville, South Carolina, did just that. She started within her own ward, and I think last I heard she's got like 8 to 10 people in her group, just in her ward. She just doesn't have a calling. She didn't start doing that. She just, because I told her, and I'm telling everybody, you don't have to have a calling to do that. You just get people together that are single adults and meet at church and study the Come Follow Me. It's awesome. Bring a snack if you want to. That is a great way to come together to do that. So I'd highly recommend that. You can reach out to them another way. You can have people over at your home and play games. You don't have to have a calling to do that. But you may have a prompting. Follow that prompting. Make a difference. Be the difference in someone's life that you needed or that you need. Because sometimes in reaching out to others, your prayers are answered. And you're able to touch someone's life that may be praying for you. Okay. Carmen, what did you want to say? Carmen? Can you hear me, Carmen? She might be coming. Hey, did you have a comment, Carmen? I can't hear you. Let me know if when you're ready, when your audio is back, and then I'll bring you in. Okay? Or you can go ahead and start talking or whatever. Anyone else have any comments? Anything you'd like to add?
I know for me, yes, I would love to meet somebody at one of the activities and eventually get married, but I now have a really great core of friends that, it's great to see everybody once or twice a month and catch up and see how you're doing. And, we're all in a lot of different situations. Some have kids, some don't, some are older, some are younger, but we're all single for one reason or another. And that's its own challenge that a lot of people in our family wards don't have. And so it's nice to be in that environment, in that company where we can fellowship with one another, and we don't have to feel like we're the odd ones out, so to speak.
Right. Oh, I completely agree. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. I'd like to hear from some of the others. Anyone
Hello.
else?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, I just have a question. Well, this is the first time I've been able to connect, but I've been listening through the phone before, but I was able to get my phone ready.
Thank you.
I'm really happy now. So I have a question.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to do that before, to have the single adults in my house for, just to get together, to do whatever in the house, watch a movie or cook out or have a dinner. And I was told that we cannot do that in our houses. That
Where do you live?
In Dothan.
In Dothan?
Yeah, in
Alabama? Okay, yeah, you can do that. Get with Mike. Do you know Mike? What's his last name? Oh,
yeah. Mike Granton. Can you?
Is he a single adult?
Yeah, Mike Granton.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Yep, Mike Grantham. Yeah, get with him.
And Amy, I forgot her last name.
Yeah, I can't remember her last name either. But yeah, get with them.
Yeah,
And
I talked to Amy, and then that's what she says, that we cannot do that.
Oh yeah, no.
I don't think.
Well, then have them talk to me, because you can. And just don't call it a church activity. You can call it a party at your house. Can you have a party at your house? Yes. Can you determine who you invite to that party at your house? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking about doing. It's like, okay, every time I want to do something, and no, we cannot do. Okay, so then I guess I'm not gonna do nothing.
So you can go to your ward clerk and you can say, hey, can I find out who the single adults are in my ward that's 31 and older, because I want to invite them to a party at my house.
Okay.
I'm not going to charge them anything, and most of the time, just say, you know what, I'm on a mission to minister to the single adults. You use that word minister, they're going to encourage that.
Okay.
Okay?
Anitra,
They'll be so okay with it.
yeah, Anitra, I can, add
That was
some more
Carmen. That was Carmen.
weight
That
behind that. What?
was Carmen.
Oh, that was Carmen? I thought Anitra came up on my phone.
No,
But,
Anitra's joining us. She has a comment too, but
okay. I did that about 3-4 years ago. I went to the ward clerk and I got that list. And I even got permission from the bishop to put a flyer out that I was going to have a pool party with a barbecue at my house. And I borrowed tables from the church to put out in my yard. And only people that showed up the first year were people from from Charlotte.
that's
And
awesome, man.
the second year, I had some of those I had the same people, plus neighbors, and I think two other people from my ward. So,
There you go.
but then things happened that I couldn't have the party again. But I hope to get it started back up once things level out again.
That's awesome. That's great. See, this is what we're loving it, loving it, loving it. Anitra, did you have a comment? Are you with us?
Who's that?
Hi, hey. Anitra, are you with us? Are you still muted? I know she had raised her hand and so I brought her in. I don't know what happened. All right. Carmen, does that help though?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, what I have done is like the other day we went out for dinner all together, get a bunch of people and we went out for dinner,
Yes.
and just little things like that. But, like now I cannot have nobody in the house because I have a big dog and it's not really that friendly.
Yeah. I definitely
for
recommend.
the dog, that's what I was planning to do,
Okay, good, good. I definitely recommend too, though, a Come Follow Me group in your home. You can do it on Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
And in Dothan, you've got a good group of people there. So I think that would be good because if you can create a nucleus of even 5 to 10 people, that's awesome. Because most
Yeah,
states,
that's great. I mean, we basically have about 7 or 8 people
in
that
your
we
ward,
work together. Yeah, but I mean, every time that we do an activity in church, I mean, we're just 2 or 3 that show up.
right? Okay.
Like for Christmas,
Mhm.
I donate all the food for a Christmas party. I cook everything for everybody. Nobody have to cook or
Wow.
do.
Oh, honey.
They
We need
just
to
have
talk.
to show up.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
And
There's other ways of doing that, so you don't have to take all that on yourself.
Oh no, I did it because I have the food and I love to cook.
Awesome. That works then.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that was my only thing.
Awesome. Fabulous. Wonderful. Well, Carmen, it sounds to me like you're inspired to do this for your ward there, and I think you need to continue on to do that because I think that's awesome. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if everybody could just work together, and again, just reaching out to 1 or 2 people is awesome, right? Like in our stakes, our goal, quite honestly, for activity is 10 people in our stake. So in the Atlanta area, maybe I've shared this with you before. I feel like I say this a lot, but mainly my committee's hearing this. So we have 12 stakes. If we had 10 people from each stake attend an event, that's 120 people.
That's great. Ooh,
I know, right?
that's great. Yeah.
But we're not there. We're not there.
Wow.
We do good if we get 5 people from a stake. We're about ready to do a happy dance on that one, right? But there are wards where they have, or where most wards have, I don't know, 10 to 20 active single adults. But we can't seem to get them at a single adult event. So what do you think that we could do different as single adults to have a more positive influence on people, to encourage them to attend a single adult event, to participate as a community of friends?
You asking me?
I'm asking everybody.
Oh, okay.
Anybody that wants to give me their thoughts.
Okay. One of the things that I have talked with several guys in different states,
Mm-hmm.
because I have lived in different states and I've been on different single adults activities in different states.
Uh-huh.
What the guy says is that they don't like these events because they feel forced, like they go to these events and women just jump on them and they feel like they have to marry, or some of them, and they just don't feel comfortable with that. And like you were saying earlier, I love to do that, just the friendship, just to have friends. Like me, I have friends in different places because I just go because I want to meet people.
Mm-hmm.
If something come out, that's great. I want to find somebody, but it's not like I'm gonna go on somebody's throat to try to find somebody.
Right. But I have witnessed what some of those men are talking about, and maybe we all have, where a new man shows up and women just kind of surround him, right? Have you guys ever seen that, or is it just me? Anyone? Anyone?
It
It
happened,
happened to me
Paula.
at the first dance I was at.
It did happen to you?
Yeah.
I might have been one of those women, but
So Brian, how did that make you feel?
I felt pretty important. I was like, hey, I'm getting a lot of attention.
what I try to do at my ward is if I see a single man come in, I try to make him feel welcome, but not pressured. We only have 5 single men that are active in my ward.
Hey, you
I
have
talk
five.
to
I have
all
one.
of them, and I talk to all of them, and the other women who are in my ward that are active, and most, I think only 1 or 2 of them actually come to single adult activities. This coming conference is going to be a big change for them, but I've been accused of grabbing all the men for myself, and the point is, none of those 5 men have any interest in coming to single adult activities. They have very bad taste in their mouth from having been divorced, and they don't want to get married again, and they think the single adult program is only for getting married.
Right.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's
That
why
is,
a lot of singles don't want to come to the activities,
right. That
because they
is
think
the
that
problem. That is
activities are just to get married.
right, and that is one of the myths we're up against, and we're not going. It's a losing battle. We're not going to win that battle.
Yeah,
I gave
fight
up on
that.
that long time ago. What?
Yeah, I fight that in my ward too, like
Right.
trying to get people to come.
Right.
Because there's our Relief Society president. She's single and she's in her early 60s, and then on the other end, there's a younger sister, never been married. She's 32, and both of them have that perception that it's basically a meat market. And I'm like, no, like you go and you make friends and you do things and you socialize, and it's a good opportunity to get out, fellowship.
So what could we do to change it? How do you think we could make a difference?
I think maybe if we emphasize some service projects that the older singles can participate in, as well as topics in our conferences that can be of interest to them in developing more spirituality in their lives, or the importance of friendships in your life, not just dating relationships. Those are just some of my ideas. I remember when I was a ward rep, I worked with a stake rep, and we actually had sewing projects that men and women were interested in taking part in sewing clothes for children that we were able to do for charity, or making quilts. And we did that sort of thing. And another tip for women, if they want to get married, buy a house. Because I have...
Okay, Lynn, yeah. Let's not go down that path. Let's not go down that path. Okay.
But, you know, it's one of those things that seems to happen in my ward. You buy a house, a man comes along and marries you, and
Okay, yeah. I bought a house and I'm about to sell it. That was 5 years ago. I'm still single. It's all good. That don't work for me. Anyway, so no, I'm selling it because my kids have moved out. So I just don't need the house. Anyways, I'm downsizing. So I'm wondering though, so a couple of you have brought up the topic of men, and thank you, Brian. I appreciate your thoughts on that as well. I know that we have a lot of women that are able to overcome inhibitions and a little bit of anxiety, although we do still have a lot that hold on to it and don't really understand the program. But we have more women that come out to participate in a single adult event than we do men overall. And I know we've had conversations before about men, and we will continue to have conversations about men. I love the topic of men, and so, you know, and I want to be able to embrace that, because that is something where men are held to a different standard than women are, and to some degree, in the single adult program. And they do tend to have a little bit more pressure. They do tend to have a little bit more expectations of them, if you will. And something I've noticed, and maybe again it's just me, but there are some women that will act like, if there aren't 50 men there, and there may be only 15 or 20, there'll be somebody that will come in and say, "Where are all the men?" And I'm like, do you not see the people that took time to show up here tonight? And I wonder if they will, if that influenced, since that's the word tonight, any of them to not come again. We don't want to negatively influence somebody and having them feel like they can't come back because, oh no, who am I, chopped liver? A good friend of mine will use that phrase if ever somebody walks into a room and says, "There's nobody here," and she's sitting at a table. What am I, chopped liver? So anyway, be careful with the words that you use. Don't pressure the men to even attend. A lot of it is getting them there to experience something. What are things that you feel like would encourage men, or more men, to attend an event? Since we all know that women tend to embrace it a little bit more.
Maybe the men should answer that question.
What was that?
Maybe the men should answer that question.
Oh, that's a very fabulous idea, Debbie.
And somebody once pointed out at a singles event, I've had some experience with men in my years, and I haven't been able to figure that one out.
Okay, so of the men that we have on the call tonight, or if anybody wants to message me during the week, that would be awesome as well. Is there anyone that wants to offer your opinion or your thoughts?
Paula, I would like to say something. I think as women that outnumber the men at a lot of these events. I think we have to make it comfortable for them. I mean, they don't always have great self-esteem. I'm not saying, I'm generalizing. I'm not saying everyone.
Right. Yeah. No.
But I think we have to be careful as women to say we're the ones that have self-image, issues and that type of thing. Men have been through really hard times too. And, they're not all healed. They're not all ready to per se date or put themselves back out there. Maybe this is their first attempt to come back. And if we pressure them into wanting something more than they're ready for, that's a huge turnoff. And we may never get them back again.
Right. I completely agree.
But I would love to hear what the men think about it, though, because as a woman that wants to go and have a good time and, one day find that, that perfect somebody for me, I would like to know, am I doing something, not me particular, but are we as women doing something that's frightening them off? Or is it just that they are as insecure as we are? Like, what is it? What do the guys on the panel think?
So, first of all, I'll say this. Down here in the South, we have a lot better ratio of guys to girls. I mean, I'd say it's probably like 60-40, maybe 65-35. Like it's there are more women, but it's pretty close. Like out in Utah, because I've got some friends out there, they say they go to a singles dance and there's like 10 guys and 100 women. And I'm not exaggerating. Like, it's really like that crazy out there. So first of all, be thankful that we were coming. No, but I think it goes back to something we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Actually, it's probably been like a month when we did like the men's panel, and Paula was talking about, a lot of times when guys go through a divorce, the women have a better support system, and a lot of guys fall away from the church. They go less active. And I think that's what it is. I think, the same proportion of guys and girls are coming to the events as there are active. I think it's that there are less active single guys. I think, whatever percentage, if we're getting 4% of active single men and 4% of active single women, you know what I mean? I think there just are less because of a number of factors that we've talked about.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
Brian, we are grateful that you guys are coming back there.
Oh, what was that, Jennifer?
I just said, and Brian, by the way, we are glad you're coming.
I'm just kidding, but yeah.
I love that you brought up the whole support system thing, because I think that is critical and that's vital. And I think that's why it's so important that we start on a ward level. Because if we can create a nucleus of friends on a ward level, then that nucleus of friends are more apt to go to a stake event or to a regional event or to a conference or whatever together, because they've created those bonds. And you can do that through a Come Follow Me study group or home evening group, a movie night, an activity night, or whatever that you're doing. Whatever you feel prompted or inspired to do. You have that power of influence to go off to do that. And then maybe you start talking to somebody and you make them feel comfortable. I remember several years ago, and it's a really good friend of mine, we did in Atlanta, our temple group has gone through some changes through the years, but early on when we did our temple trips on our second Saturday, part of it, so we would have a group that would go through the sessions in the temple, and then we would have another group that would like watch a church movie or do a devotional or walk around the temple and that kind of thing. For those that they didn't have a temple recommend, or maybe they missed the session because they were late or whatever, so they still felt that they could have a spiritual moment there on the temple grounds. And there was one, and then we also alternated who was in charge and which state hosted it and whatever. There was one month that I was the one hosting that one. And that month, one man showed up. And that one man was coming back to church after a period of inactivity in the church. And within the next month, he was going to the temple to, for the first time for himself. And I remember being there. And I didn't realize that day how important or how impactful that day would have been, or what kind of friend that man would become. But now, all these years later, he's still a friend of mine. And he's still single. Awesome man. He comes to our events and just great person. So I think about things like that often when I think of the men and needing that support. And what if I didn't show up that day? What if I thought, oh, it's only him, I won't do anything. But I treated that day like it was, we did what we were planning to do. We had a very great conversation. That power of influence was huge. And the power of one to make a difference for another person. That person can then go make a difference for other people. And he has continued to make a huge difference in the lives of people. So I think about that with the support system and how that can really impact people. And the things that you do as one person and the things you say. Any other thoughts or comments on this? Fred, did you have anything?
I think the question we were talking about, why don't men come? Is that it? Or what can we do to get them to come?
What can we do to help them feel more comfortable in attending?
I don't know. I feel comfortable attending.
Well, of course you do, Fred.
Most of the time. I've invited several men to come, and I don't know. They just say, "Oh, I don't want to do that."
How do you invite them?
Hey, let's go hang out with some singles in Atlanta or something.
Okay, so I wonder if, and Brian, how do you invite your friends?
Right.
Sorry, I was talking on mute. I just tell them about the activity. I tell them what's going on and, try to let them know a little bit about it and, try to dispel that myth that it's, about dating and everything and, play up that we have a good time and we fellowship and make friends and everything.
And so, Fred, you just pretty much say, hey, you want to go to this thing?
Yeah, I don't know. They're just kind of like, oh, I don't want to do that. Why not? Well, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I can't get a good answer out of people. But I do understand, you go to the activities and I think it's good that the women are assertive and go up to the men because the men are not, I'm flattered when a woman comes up to me and says, hey, how you doing? And, when we had the Sadie Hawkins dance, I was terribly disappointed. Nobody invited me to dance. So I was
But I didn't ask you to dance that night. Oh,
no, you did, Paul. I'm sure you did. I know you did. Yeah.
All right. So, okay. Anyone else have experience with trying to invite other single adults and how you do it? Because I want to know how you do it and what the responses are.
Well, one thing is, one of their questions is, what's in it for me?
Don't you just love that question?
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to answer that because I fall prey to, being in a rut of like going to the Atlanta activities, and Fred and I have talked about this a lot, but, sometimes it's hard for me to justify going all the way to Atlanta to an activity. Now, talking back about the person of one, I've been in the singles program, I don't know, 9 years or 10 years or something, and here in Chattanooga. And so I've been on and on, constantly talking to the state presidents, creating a Facebook group. I finally got a singles program going here. And, but I've noticed that we've gotten more, I've gotten that going. And then I found out it seems like we have more participation now that we aren't having dances. So I don't know if the dances are less intimidating for the guys. And so when they find out that it's just going to be a secure setting with, in a home, that they like that better. I don't know. I've had a little bit more participation that way. It's not been great, but it seems to be a little better.
Okay. Anyone else?
But one thing is, like this was brought up last Sunday, and I tried to say something, and I think my phone died. But, talking about like the guys, and like I know that I've talked to a few guys while dancing, and when I ask them questions, I think a lot of them get the impression that, and it might be because of their past experiences, but a lot of them get the impression that I'm trying to test the waters, to see if they've got a good job, like I'm a gold digger or something. But what these men don't realize is I've been supporting myself, my whole life. I don't need their money. Their money be nice, but I don't need it. And so I'm asking the questions to see if they're interesting, see what kind of life experiences they've had.
Sure.
See if, we have anything in common, just to talk about on a friendship basis. But, it's like whenever I ask questions, it's like they think I'm filling them out to see if they're good husband material. And, if they would like to show me their scriptures, and if they're worn out, then they're good husband material for me. The way they look, that's not important. Their spirituality is what's important to me. But it's like it's just casual conversation, and then they kind of put off by that. But I don't know, maybe if we could get the guy, maybe if we had something besides dances, the guys. But at this point, I know you've not seen me in Atlanta much, but I'm still struggling to find out the benefits of me going, spending 5 hours in a car for the activities in Atlanta.
Right. Okay. I love that, because you're pretty much there. Well, what's in it for me if I'm going to drive to Atlanta, right?
Right. And I get that. I know what you said earlier about, the building the friendships and this and that, but I've got small children at home that I'm responsible for. I have a full-time job, and so I can't really get a bestie in Atlanta. That's just too far to have a best friend. And that's the reason why I've been trying to really build up the Chattanooga program to create an environment for support for each other here, and then also to use it as a missionary tool to bring in the inactive men and women.
And how's that working for you?
Well, like I said, we've gotten some new ones to come now that we're not having dances.
Okay. So about how many people do you have attend?
We've had, up to 13 lately, which, it sounds like much, but we're just one state.
That's a good group. That's awesome. Okay, cool.
Paula.
Yes. Hey, baby.
Hey. In my area, one of the main issues is younger single adults don't want to go with the older single adults. We've had very little turnout, and I don't know if they just think it's hard to get them out. And I think they probably have someone more their age to kind of work with them. But for my aspect, I'm in the older single adults, and there's a lot of widows. I mean, I'm widowed myself, and I didn't want to come. I've been widowed about 14 years this summer, and I didn't want to come for a long time. And but I had a friend who drugged me to an event in Charleston. He finally got me to agree to go, and I even went and talked to the bishop. And I said, Bishop, I hadn't taken off my wedding ring. I don't know how I can go. He said, well, Peggy, you can't go with your wedding ring. Took my wedding ring off, but I went, and it was a cookout. It's somebody, a family had let them use their area. It was a big house, and they had a nice little place for a cookout. And I didn't feel any pressure. You know, it was not. There didn't seem to be this like. It felt like just a friendship area, and that is important because I found has worked good for us in the past. We don't have a whole lot of activities because we have such a small turnout. Then I know you're supposed to feed the one. If no but one comes, you're supposed to minister to the one. But a game night where we had different games, and Uno is one of the favorite games.
Yeah.
And that kind of gets them in, and the women mingling together. I've noticed that. Dances, we haven't had a dance. I've got older ones who say, I don't like to go out at night. So most of our activities have been on a Saturday during the day. But we've had different kind of themes where we've had like Sister Oaks. We had a projector and showed her talk so that it could see that it is the Lord's timing. You know, she went to what, 50s before she got married. So I tried to let them realize and bring out the spiritual aspect of the gospel, that we're all God's children. We, need to support and help each other. We stayed away from the dating kind of part, and but anyway, that's just.
Well, dating is a very good aspect of our,
I'm not.
No. I know. I'm all for. No, sorry. I'm loving that you're not emphasizing dating. I don't emphasize dating in our single adult events. My thoughts went a little bit ahead when I started making my comment. I tend to do that. I thought through all that. I just didn't share all that with you. But yeah, no, I love that your emphasis is not on the dating, and I love that. Now, when you have your group, do you have a wide range of age range, or is it just the older group, or how does that work?
No, it's mostly 50. Yeah.
Okay. But the others are invited, correct?
Yes, we sent it out. There was a mid-single rep, but that's kind of gotten to the side. So I think, though, I really feel like they need a mid-single rep, somebody more their own age in my area now, that can do the things. My group's not going to go like the rock climbing or the thing. They're just not going to do that. But they like to get together and eat. And maybe we could talk about some sites, maybe go do some sightseeing here in Savannah and stuff like that. So,
okay. Well, that's awesome. I mean, you're doing various activities, so that's good.
Not many, because it's a hard group to get pulled out. I don't.
No, it's all good. I think, quite honestly, I think it just kind of boils down to a lack of understanding of the program. A lot of people have their myths and different ideas of what it is, and what they've heard, or the rumors, or whatever.
But we do have more women than men, and but it is. I have to say, what activities we've had, there's not been a pressure. It's been like a fellowshipping thing, and anyway.
Which is awesome. That's exactly what we're going for. But we do. I really feel like somewhere along the way, we assume some people understand the single adult program. I think we assume that some people know the purpose. That everybody knows there's a handbook. Who in here knows there's a single adult handbook? Do you know that? You can totally look it up online. It's not even a hard copy. It's you can just Google Latter-day Saint or LDS. Might still work. I don't know. Single adult handbook, And you can find 16.1 right there. It's 2 pages. You will see no calling in there. There's a committee that we can create, and it's up to the stake president how it's created. The stake reps and the ward reps are actually part of an older handbook model, but we still hold on to it in some areas, like we do here in the South. It works, so we do that. There are other areas that don't do that. I know Charlotte has a different way of forming their committee, or at least they did. I don't know if they still do. Although I think reps now doing that. What?
Didn't say when at one of the conferences that he encouraged when they talked about come follow me program. I thought that the prophet stated that get in your groups. It didn't say it was an organized thing, but to get to groups together. And it's the family home evening program that's kind of like dispersed, isn't it? Or it doesn't have to be much.
In the handbook for single adults, it says that the home evening groups are encouraged. They want us to call it home evening without the family in it, because family is for families. And the home evening group is for people that no longer have children at home. And it's generally led by the bishop. Or at least it's, I don't know, presided over maybe. Anyway, it's something to do with the bishop. I can't remember the exact wording on that one. But so it doesn't have to be the bishop involved or whatever, but at least the bishop knows about it or whatever. But that's technically how that is in the handbook. So no, they're not dissolved. And again, I think it just boils down to a lack of understanding of the handbook, of the purpose. There are 3 main purposes of the single adult program. And I just think it's awesome, and I think it's a wonderful thing, and I'm all for dating. I'm all for it. I've even had thoughts of matchmaking at times. You know, ooh, I think that'd be really good with, you know, my close friends. I've done that too a couple of times. Not that it ever worked, but that's okay. I still can think about it, right? So,
like I said,
no,
it's in the Lord's hand. If you just go to have a good time, if it's right with the Lord, He'll put people in your path.
Oh yeah, right, yeah, sure, totally. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And Paula, I think the thing we also need to remember is that even if we date someone and it doesn't work out, they were put in our path for a purpose, and we've learned something from that. And we are better people for doing for going where we're supposed to go and being where we're supposed to be. Those people have enriched our lives. I have not dated a lot. I've been single now since 2012, and I am not a big dater. It's not because I don't want to, it's because I am particular. And the people that I have welcomed into my life have definitely changed who I am at the core. And I have such a love and appreciation for them for how they've changed my life.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry for getting emotional.
I completely agree.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I mean, you know, you just never know what that reason will be. I went on a couple dates with somebody fairly recently, and she kind of found out she wasn't ready to date and had some things she needed to work on for herself, and said about that. And then, you know, she texted me like a week ago, and she's like, "Hey, I'm dating somebody now." So, you know, it can be anything. It can be like the Jennifer and George thing, you know, you go on one date and then you know, you never know. But yeah, I agree. Like, if you date good people, good things will come from that. You know, I'm still in contact with a lot of people I've dated and am friends with them, you know, get friendships, you know, learn about yourself, help them learn about themselves. So,
I completely agree.
Maybe the lesson is to encourage people to develop friendships, because if it does turn into love or marriage, you want to marry a good friend. You want to friends before you get married. So maybe that's a good thing to kind of make sure it gets out as you're planning things, that it's a friendship, a support group, like you said.
Yes.
One thing that I've found that over my 10 years of being back in the church and single, and not just in the church, but seeing my friends that's not in the church, especially my friends that's not in the church that date. But, you know, I've not dated these entire 10 years. And, but it's actually a blessing because I see that so many of my friends, there's been several that over these 10 years that they've dated extensively, they've married, and then some have dated, married, divorced, married, dated, divorced. And, you know, I'm blessed that I'm not on that emotional roller coaster ride. You know, I'm not burdened with that. You know, I can just go through life and not worry about somebody else like that. But, you know, and it's also gave me the opportunity to figure out what type of person I'm looking for. You know, because these people, they don't give themselves times to heal and time to figure themselves out. Because when you're married, especially when you've been married for years and years, you lose your identity at a certain point. And then when that person's gone, either by divorce or death, it's like, who are you? I mean, because you don't have that other person there to help define you. And so it takes time for people to figure out who they are, to stand on their own, and then know that, this is my life. This is why I don't date. There's too much going on here, but you know, it hurts me to see people that do that to themselves, that don't try to figure themselves out first and find out what is their priority in a person, a spouse, or even somebody to date. So, I mean, that's one good thing about not dating is, you know, you don't have that emotional roller coaster, and you get to sit and figure out who, you know, that person could be. And I do think about Sister Oaks and others that were single for 50, 60 years. And I sit there and think, well, maybe the Lord's holding me for somebody. I've still got to work on myself spiritually to put myself in a place that I will be ready for, you know, that person. I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe the Lord, not that I'm flattering myself, but I try to focus like this, that maybe the Lord's holding me back for, you know, a great church leader. And I've got to get myself spiritually prepared for them.
Debbie, I love your thoughts. That is just, oh my goodness, that is incredible. I love it. I think I completely agree. Amen. I know that to be able to be in a healthy relationship, we have to have gone through those stages of grief, like we talked about early on in our webinars, and being able to go through and reach a certain point in our life where we have dealt with the loss and we've dealt with whatever we've had to deal with to be able to move on. I love that. And I love also that you talked about preparing yourself. I think we all need to. And instead of finding the one, we need to be the right one. And I think if we can shift our mindset to that, it's a lot better. What are you doing to be the right one for somebody else?
Yeah, and see, like, you know, like I said, I haven't dated really, and I haven't had like a boyfriend or dated or anything over these 10 years, and not been by choice. It's been by, it's just nobody's asked. And so that really bothered me for quite some time. So anybody that's in the same situation where nobody's asking you out, or, you know, everybody's got a boyfriend but you, or in a relationship with you, you know, I struggled with that for a long time, but I finally came to peace with that. And then especially like with Sister Oaks, you know, thinking about her and others that, cause there's another sister, well, you know, think about, whoever, but, you know, I think about them and it's like, wow, it's like maybe, you know, maybe it's not my calling because somebody else might distract me. You know, if I was involved with somebody else or got involved with somebody or lowered my standard to date whoever, I'm sure if I dated guys outside the church, I could date quite a bit, but I'm not going to do that. I've been married twice. They were both non-members, and that can get me here. So I mean, like, my standard is a church member, but anybody that's struggling, that they're lonely, just immerse yourself in the scriptures, immerse yourself in this amazing Come Follow Me program. I bought the Institute New Testament book to go with it because, like, I want to dig deeper and deeper into what those scriptures are saying beyond what the Come Follow Me has got in it. And so, just like you said, you know, maybe we need to prepare ourselves physically, which I've got a lot to do with that, but I'm more concerned with my spiritual, to get ready for somebody spiritually, because I want somebody that's spiritual. Like I said, worn out scriptures is sexy to me. And so, you know, it's like, I want somebody that's very spiritual. And so I've got to get myself to that level.
I think we need a meme on that one, Debbie, and a worn out set of scriptures. That's awesome. I love it. All right. So, any other comments or thoughts? Debbie, I really appreciate you sharing all that. I really do. That's awesome. Anybody else? Well, if you think of anything during the week, let me know. I'm happy to have a message from you or whatever. I know. Elizabeth Potter said, a worn out set of scriptures sounds like a hit country song. There you go, Debbie. That's awesome. All righty. Well, you guys are great. I appreciate you spending a Sunday night with me. And, you know, if you guys have any other thoughts or any other comments, whatever you want to share with me during the week, that'd be awesome. And otherwise, I'll see you next week. I will be streaming from Utah next week because I'm going there for training with my company. So I'll be there for a few days. But anyway, still going to be happening at 7 o'clock Eastern time, but I'll be on Utah time then, but that'll be okay. But anyway, we'll see you then. Have a good night, guys.